Hello everyone and welcome to the final part in this series of making a classic IDM sample pack in Ableton 10 Suite. So, what are we going to do? Well, we've basically done all the work and now we're going to have a laugh, okay? We're going to make like a live set. We're going to like have a little bit of a rave. I'm going to have a little bit of a party by myself, and you are, of course, as viewers, welcome to participate in whichever capacity that you are able to or feel comfortable with. Very cheeky. So basically what I've done is I've pulled in all of the sounds that we've been working on, and I'm going to use them as elements in a set in which to jam with. And this is what I kind of like to call, on my own terms, a kind of hybrid DJ set. I mean, by that I mean that, like, I'm not really going to do anything super fancy. I'm just going to sort of play around with, you know, launching clips and using the faders, using the solos, the mutes, the sends or whatever. But we're doing it all with, you know, original material that we've made and that we've laid out in layers across the session, across the set. And I'm probably going to have a look at making like some effects chains that we can use for each of the tracks and on the master. So like the good thing about using all of these clips as just audio is that the CPU is going to be pretty low because all it's doing is just reading stuff from disk. We can put it into RAM if we want to make it read a little bit faster. From what I understand, if we get into some crazy follow action stuff, we might need to do that. In fact, it advises you to do that. I think if you're on a certain, yes, so switch a clip into RAM to avoid unexpected dropouts when toggled clips reference different samples. So when you're doing follow actions in legato mode, loading the samples into RAM is good if you've got a lot of RAM, but everyone has these days, you know, what, 8 gig is standard in a brand new computer these days, I would expect, possibly even more. Anyway, that's enough waffle. We're going to need a MIDI controller. Well, we don't need a MIDI controller, but I am going to use a MIDI controller, and I'm going to use the Akai APC Mini, which I think for the money is absolutely the best controller for Ableton. Okay, there are other ones, okay? I've got a push, which is underneath, and the push is brilliant, but for some things, it's not so good. There's also the launch pad. The launch pad is really good. I've owned a couple. But for some things, it's not so good. The APC 40, which is the larger version of this, is also really good. But for me, it doesn't do some things so good. The reason why I like the APC Mini is because you have this fader control thing here. So we're not just like limited to using the faders to control the volume. We can use them to control the sends, and we can use them to control devices. All we have to do is just hit shift and then go to what we want to control. I personally really like this because I really like to slam faders and be a real prick on them, you know. So like sometimes I just want to slam something into a send and scoot it back, you know. It's a little bit difficult to do that with a knob. But also we've got like all these other options here to use these buttons to say like stop clips or to select a track so that we can go into that track and select the device and then tweak around with that. And there's a master fader, which is brilliant because sometimes you're doing a gig and everything's gone to shit and you just need to turn the master down. So you should always have a master in your set. So why don't we get started? I've kind of laid everything out sort of left to right in terms of where they kind of sit on the frequency spectrum. So the bass is track 1. Whilst you guys weren't looking, I made a few just kick and snare patterns from using the Core Classics drum machine thing that comes with Ableton. Just because some of these loops that we made were just lacking in that real punch of the kick and snare. So I've just made a few like sort of, that's a 606. That's a, or is that the 606? Yeah, no, that's the 606. This is the 909, I think. Yeah, so that's kind of going to be like the main driving beat. And then we move into like the groovy, the sort of groovy loops that are more sort of for percussion. Then we move into the glitch ups that we made. Then we've got the chords that are sort of in the mid-range, the lead riffs, which are kind of also in the mid-range going into the high mids, and then this is going into the high mids. And then we've got the stubs, which are just generic effects. And then we've got the feedback, which is absolutely in the highs. That's kind of just how I like to lay things out like this, is to kind of go left to right, like they would be on the frequency spectrum. So how do we do a live set? Well, I don't know. This is like such a deep subject, but like I was doing some follow action stuff with it earlier on, but you know, I'm not going to. All we really need to do is what's on the spectrum. Nothing. Let's trash the spectrum. Really, all it's just about is just, I say, slam down the faders. I like to have all the faders slammed down at the start. And the thing is with this is that we've given, there's one too many tracks outside of the range. What could I do about that? Yeah, I kind of, okay, I'll leave the feedback out of the grid for now. So kind of the way that I've laid this out is that we've just got a huge selection of material that you can just swap around, you know, and find and like improvise with. And like, you know, there are people who think that like sets should be meticulously planned, and we'll get to that later. But for me, I kind of just quite like to have like a bit of a playground, you know, I like to improvise, but knowing that everything that I'm going to trigger is going to work. And because we've made this bespoke sample pack, we know that that's kind of going to happen. So I don't know, I could just fire off a clip and just kind of bring something in, or I could start with a chord. Let's just start with the chord, see what the chord's doing. The only thing I don't like about the APC Mini is that there is no global transport, but we can just hold shift and do stop all clips like that, which is nice. So I've just noticed that I've left that track on for resampling, and I don't want that. I said I don't want. Oh my God. Can you just turn it off? Okay, right. So I don't want the IO on. That's fine. So the thing is, like I was saying earlier, I really like to slam these faders, but I kind of like to use them for slow fade ins and fade outs, but also to slam them really hard. And the thing is, I can't slam the volume on this fader really, really hard, because that is going to be setting the fader, excuse me, to 5.7 dB. We don't want that. So one general thing that I quite like to do is to put a utility on there, so that so I can slam the fader up full, but the gain is actually going to be at a sensible level. So if I did it with this FM bass channel to start with. So I might try something like -6 on the gain. So if I slam that fader all the way up, it's actually at a safe volume. We could actually maybe go for -8. This is great, because then I can just slam it in. Okay, so I'm going to put that on all the tracks. Every single track is going to have this -8 utility, because I don't want to be like fading things in and worrying like, oh, is the gain all right? That's not what I want to be worrying about when I'm raving my fucking tits off. Just want to slam the faders like a prick, you know. So we're going to put this in here, and oops, not there. And then everything is going to be hunky-dory. So now I can kind of be quite flip, quite aggressive. I can still be quite slow and smooth. Sorry, I didn't mean to bonk the camera just then. Right, let's have it. All right, let's fire off a kick and a snare. Okay, the master is a little bit loud. Okay, I'm just going to turn the master. The master is a little bit loud. Why don't we maybe put the same utility on the master, and let's come down. Let's try something similar like -8, because then we can slam the master up. Okay, that's still a bit loud. Let's try -12. We can slam the master up, and everything's fine. Everything's fine. No worries. There we go. That's what I like. Shit like that. the time of my life. But the thing is, it's a little bit dry, you know, tiny little bit dry. So I'm going to stop these clips. Oh, what did I just do? Just started recording. Why is that armed to record? Okay, stop clips, I said. Oh, yeah. Okay, I didn't actually do that. I actually started a clip. So I think a good place to start is let's make a really nice return track, but let's just use one track. Okay, I don't want to be jumping between 5 send and returns. Let's just use one, but let's like layer up some effects so that, you know, all we need to worry about is let's just send the track into the send, and there's just going to be a big explosion of euphoria or perhaps despair. I don't know. So let's do that. Let's start with a reverb. Put the reverb on there. I'm going to put a limiter on there. You know, call me out all you want, but I'm going to do it. The limiter's there now. And let's have that dry wet up. Let's have the decay time up. Massive decay time. Come on, this is a rave. Let's fill the rave with reverb. Okay. All right, why don't we like fire off a kick and a snare and see what we've got going on here. So on the APC Mini, I'm now going to do shift, and I'm going to tell the faders that I want the faders to go on the snares. So now I can just slam this fader up into the send. Yeah. Oh, I love that. I love that shit. That's what I live for. And then we can do it with other tracks. And we can turn the sends up ahead of the volume. So then when we fade up the volume, we're fading the volume into the send. We get that kind of dub thing. So there's going to be a lot of dubbing out in this video. It's one of my favorite things to do. So let's go now. Let's hold shift and go to the volume. And I'm just going to flick up the volume on this chord and send it into the reverb. Oh my God. Sexual, I've got to admit it. So, but I kind of maybe want to just make it a little bit more textural. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to group that reverb, and then in the same effect rack, I'm going to put an echo, and the echo is going to have a full dry wet. I'm going to set the feedback to about 70%. I'm going to do this thing with the filter that I always do. And now we've kind of got delay and reverb on the same send. They're layered up. And we're going to have like plenty of CPU to cope with all these time-based effects, because all we're doing is just playing back clips of audio. At least that's my understanding. So let's have a listen now to see what's going on. Let's try that chord thing again. Go back to the volume. Okay, the feedback was maybe a little bit high. We don't want that to get out of control, even though we've got a limiter on there, and we probably don't want that feedback to get out of control, because I'm not planning to set something up so that I can reach for that feedback and kill it if it gets out of control. I kind of just want it to just ricochet off and have its own little lifespan and then eventually die away until it comes to live again when I send something into it. Okay. What else? What else could we do? Well, what I was thinking of doing was making an audio effect rack to go on each track and also on the master. And it's basically just going to be a default kind of just generic rack for doing some looping, for doing some modulation effects, and it will be the same across each track. So as I went to another track and then went to that device, all of the parameters will be the same, and there'll only be one device. I think less is more when it comes to this type of thing. Rather than having so many devices, get all your devices down into a rack and then just have one rack per track, because then when you go to that device on that track, you know that it's just going to be that one device. So why don't we try with let's try with the kick and the snare. So let's go back to volume. Let's turn all this crap down and let's just hear the kick and snare. And maybe a bit of the percussion. Actually, I could do it on the percussion. No, actually, you know what? I'll just do it on the master. I'll do it on the master and then I'll move them all to the individual tracks. So to start with, how should I do this? Let's get an audio effect rack in. I'm going to put it before the utility. And I'm going to name them first. So I'm going to say this one is a beat. I'm just going to say this is like a loop. And then this is going to be a low pass. This is going to be a high pass. And then this is going to be a selector. This is going to be the tweaker. Yeah. High pass, low pass. All right, okay. And then let's say this is the repeater. And then that's it, really. And then I was going to have a final loop at the end so that we could loop whatever it does. Okay, so let's make our green macro here. These are all going to be in series. So I'm going to pull in a beat repeat here. And all this is going to be, this is just going to loop. This is just going to loop whatever's coming in. I'm going to turn no triplets on. So basically, I think all I'm going to do is just macro the on button. Let's see how this works. Macro the repeat button and then macro the grid, all to the same knob. I said knob. So let's say that the lowest value is actually 1 bar and the highest value is, I won't say 256 because that's just a bit stupid. Let's say 16ths. And then we want the device to come on exactly at 1. And we want the repeat to come on exactly at 1. That should be enough to get us started. So, okay, so now I need to go to, I need to learn how to use this. So select the track. Okay, brilliant. But you can't select the master track. Shit. All right, well, I think if it's just, no. How do I select the master track from this thing? There is no way. Damn. Okay. All right. Let's just do it with the mouse. Okay, well, that is something a bit of a... Well, I mean, on the push, you would be able to do this. Perhaps on other MIDI controllers, you'd be able to do this too. For some reason, I don't know how to do this on the APC Mini. There is no way to get to the master track. Okay. That's fine. I will just keep working in this effect track on the master track. So let's hear some more of those things. So basically what's going to happen with this one knob turn is that as you increase it ever so slightly, it's going to start looping for 1 bar. And then as you increase it, the grid's going to get tighter. Until eventually you turn it all the way down and it's going to turn off. That's fine. So let's put in an auto filter now. And we're going to do the same type of thing, but this is going to be our low pass. Let's maybe set this to set the resonance to about 15%. And then all we're going to do is just map that to low pass. And then we've got a nice low pass. That's fine. Okay, and now we're going to do the same thing, but with the high pass. Let's do the high pass here. We're going to go high pass, set this all the way down. Let's maybe set the resonance to about 15%, and then let's map this to high pass. And now we get a nice high pass on this knob. So why would you want to do that? Okay, well, you might just want to sort of slam everything into a 16th note. Do something like that. Everyone loves that at a rave, you know? Okay. And then for the okay, I'm gonna get to the selector and tweaker part in a minute, because that's probably most likely to send me off down a bit of a ranty rabbit hole. So I'll work on the bits that I'm certain about and then get onto that. Okay. Hope everyone's having a nice time. If you're new to my videos, I talk for ages and drink and don't edit and ramble, and I hope you're into that. If you are, then I'm pretty sure we're going to be friends. So I'll take another beat repeat, put it at the end, and I'm going to kind of do the same thing as the first one. I'm basically going to duplicate the first one, but it's going to go at the end. And the reason why that is because, you know, we're going to set up a system where we can screw around with some effects, but then if we want to, we can loop what we've just done. So actually, what's stopping me just copying, dragging that, and just instead mapping this to loop, this to loop, and this to loop. Okay. Let's see what happens with that. So say like if I sort of, it's quite difficult to demonstrate, but if I did something like that, just lock to the APC Mini for a second, would you? Okay. Yeah. If I did like a filter sweep like that, I could like loop it. Can you hear that? Yeah. Oh. Okay, so that means that the filter has to be up. You know what? I don't think I'd like that. I think when everything's down, I want it to be off. So I'm actually just going to go into the mapping of that, which is where low pass. I'm going to flip those ranges. So when it's all the way down. Oh, the APC Mini died. Okay. So when it's all the way down, there's no low pass. When it's all the way up, it's high pass. Low pass. Yeah. Okay, that's fine. And then for the repeater thing, this macro isn't really going to do anything. We'll leave it there in case we want to do something with it. Hello. Okay. So I'm going to put a beat repeater in here with the charts all the way down, the offset at 0. I'm going to have, excuse me, I'm going to have an interval of 1/2. The gate for, how long is the gate going to be? The gate for 1 bar, I think. The interval and the gate kind of are similar, but have different values. All right, so for this one, I'm going to have it jump from 1/3 to 1/4. No, 1/8. No, 1/6 and 1/8. Every like 8th note. But I think I need to do that. In order to do that, I have to have it set at 16ths. We're just going to have to sort of try and work it out really as we go. Okay. No. way does the variation go? Okay. Okay, I think that's kind of what I want. Yeah, I've never really quite gotten my head around this variation thing, to be honest. I mean, I tend to just sort of crank it up and then know it's going to do something crazy. But in terms of doing something quite meticulous, I sometimes struggle. I guess we could just look at the help file. Grid size can be changed randomly using this control. If variation is set to 0, the grid size is fixed. But when variation is set to higher values, the grid fluctuates around the set grid of the value. So, all right. So if I'm actually... So it's going either... So if it's a 1.6, it's either going to 1 over 4 or 1 over 8. That could be what I want. All right, that'll do for now. That might need a little bit of work, but I'm going to map the chance knob to the repeater. So when the chance is all the way down, are we still macroed here? Yeah. So when the chance is all the way down, we'll get nothing. And then every once in a while, we can just have a little bit of funky foo. Yeah. I love that 1 over 6. You know, that kind of dotted. And over the whole mix as well, this is like really interesting. So if we do that in conjunction with some crazy filtering. All right. How long have I been going? 28 minutes, guys and girls. This is going to be a long video, okay? I'm just warning you. This is the end of the series and I'm going to send everything off in a huge bang, but I'm just going to have a short pause. I've had my short break. So now what I want to do is kind of go down the rabbit hole. So in the middle of these two sort of groups of chains here, I'm going to put a large and very complex sub audio rack inside our audio rack. And what that is going to be is basically a load of chains doing different modulation effects that we can screw around with, but they're going to be in the middle of the two loopers. So the first looper will basically allow us to just grab a bar or grab an eighth note or something, and then we can modulate around it. Or whilst we're modulating around it, we can loop those random modulations and make something out of it. And you can leave that running whilst you're getting the next part of your set ready, maybe, or something. Or you can just use it as a cool momentary effect. So I'll start with something like, I don't want to use too many because I don't want to take too long with it. But we could start with something like the flanger. So I'll pull the flanger in here and let's have a listen to the flanger. So give me some drums, please. All right. Okay, the flanger has already introduced a little bit of gain. So, all right, I'll just ping a limiter after there. Don't call me out, okay? No one's going to, like, notice at a rave that you've got a limiter on, apart from the engineer. And I doubt he's going to be that bothered, to be honest. So, well, actually, he might be, you know. Just, if he is bothered, just say, I just got it from some Ned Rush video. I don't fucking know. Because that's how you talk. So... Right. Okay, so first of all, actually, we want a dry chain. So I'm going to make a chain here. I'm going to rename it. I'm just going to call it dry. And then the top one... Oh, what have I just done? Went to that view. I'm going to call this one flanger. I'm going to call it flagmaner. Okay. And then I'm going to map the, all I want really is just, I don't want the LFO. All I want really is just that delay time. So I'm going to map that delay time to macro 2, I think. And that's fine. So I'm going to say, yeah, that's basically it. Okay. And then I'm going to mute that one for now. I'm going to mute the dry as well. I'm going to take something else. What else could we use? I don't know. I quite like the bit reduction. Let's put like a bit reduction in there as well. Let's rename that. Let's say bit. And then really, I just want to map the down sample. So let's map the down sample to the same macro as the delay time. And what I'm going to do is later down the line, I'm going to switch between all these chains with a single knob, and then have a second knob to control the parameters that I've mapped. What else could we have? I mean, you could just keep going. You keep on going and going and going and going. An echo might be quite fun. Let's go with the echo. Let's maybe like a really fast echo type thing. Or maybe like an echo with no feedback. And do like a scrubby thing like that. I don't know, it's not... What about if we assign an LFO to it? Let's put an LFO to the delay time. Is that going to work? No. It does sound quite cool, but it's a bit subtle. No, that's not really doing it for me. Not for this. We need like rave. We need like rave effects. I mean, that kind of just sounds like the flanger thing we just did. You know what? I'm going to get rid of that. Oh, I don't know. Maybe something else. Yeah, I mean, I guess maybe the grain delay might be interesting, or the gate. We try the gate. The gate can do like nice choppy stuff, but it's a little bit, the gate's quite hard to predict. I guess we could just use the threshold. We could just map the threshold. Yeah, that's good, yeah. Okay, let's map the threshold to macro 2. Yeah, that's good, yeah. Turn that floor down. All right, yeah, this is good. I mean, yeah, we could keep going, but I don't want to spend too long on it. Maybe the frequency shifter. Let's put the frequency shifter in on one thing. Let's go for ring. Okay, let's map that to macro 2. Okay, that's fine. That's all I really want to do for now. So I'll just turn all these off. Let's go to the chain selector now. And let's put the dry one at the top. So the lowest in the chain, I didn't rename the chains, but anyway, let's just, whoops, sorry, bonked the camera. Let's distribute the ranges equally. Let's map the map to number 1. So now that we can go to all of these various chains, and then if we want to go back to the dry signal, we just slam it back down to 0. And then with macro 2, we can tweak around the effects. Okay, now I'm going to map those macros to our master macro. So I'm going to map chain selector to selector and macro 2 to tweaker. And if this is still locked to the APC, let's see what we get. Yeah, that's cool. All right. That'll do. Okay, so now I'm just going to take a copy of that and put it on every single track before the utility. And then we can have like that effect either on individual tracks, or we can have it on, you know what, I've just thought of one more effect I would like to put in there, but I'm not going to do it. It was like an auto pan, like a choppy auto pan, but I'll let you guys do that yourself. That can be your homework. Right. Oh, this is giving me arthritis. Click, drag, click, drag. Oh, okay. All right. So, unfortunately, due to the functionality of the APC Mini, I won't be able to jump to the master track in order to smash up the entire mix. But we can do it to individual elements. So, let's just bring our volumes down. Let's fire off this loop again. Oh, I need to unlock that. Yeah, we're getting ready for the gig. We're not doing the gig, okay? Just remember that. Okay. So let's see what's going on here. Volume, please. Volume. Okay. All right. The chord is currently bust. Let's see what that sounds like. I'm already raving my tits off. Let's try some of those. Let's try some of those effects now, shall we? Let's maybe go to track. Track 4. be nice to get to the master track and do it to the whole mix, but yeah, I mean, that was really kind of everything I really wanted to do, really. Let's have a listen to these stubs. Okay, these stubs, I don't want them to loop. I want them to be one shots. So I'm just going to turn off loop because I want them to choke when they do their reversey thing. So let's have a listen to one of these now. You know, it really makes a whole difference to the experience when you've got like lots of like sort of discrete elements and you just bring them in and out. You know, it just makes a difference to the whole thing. You can keep the whole thing going and just intermittently move between various layers, dub them out, apply a little bit of jittery, glitchy bollocks to it. But for me personally, it's enough. It's enough to keep things going. You got to kill the bass sometimes. So yeah, that's kind of it really. And I'm sure there are some of you out there that are maybe thinking, oh, this is all a little bit random, you know, like a good live set should be well planned out, you know, or yeah, a good live set should take the crowd on a journey and work with the dance floor, you know, not like direct it. And, you know, yeah, sure. If you want to do that, that's fine. Go and do that. Like, I don't care. But for me personally, I like a little bit of risk, you know, a bit of spontaneity, a bit of uncertainty. It's fun, you know, yeah, it keeps me on my toes. You know, all my favourite live sets are done are when things can go a little bit wobbly, you know, a little bit whoa, a little bit way. You know, everyone's up for a silly time and, you know, no one cares. You know, that's my idea of a fun rave up. Everyone being a bit silly and having a laugh, you know, not fucking 20-year-old girls with glossy hair and sunglasses taking selfies and doing the fucking peace sign the wrong way. You know, not like hipster dickheads standing there with their arms folded looking all perturbed, you know, expecting better. Nah, I want a bit of a sweaty, smelly knees up, you know, everyone smiling, waving their arms about, hugging each other. Maybe someone falls over. Oopsie, lols. Maybe things are getting a little bit sexy. Oh, hello, a bit of snogging on the dance floor. And then right next to them, there's a guy in a wolf mask, Russian dancing. Yeah, you know, everyone's smashed on vodka and Monster and doesn't care about their body odor anymore, you know. Oh, look, there's a 60-year-old man in a tutu with bunny ears on and everyone loves him. Yay! Hey, there's a guy in full mime gear trapped in the invisible box with a dummy in his mouth. You know, and then everyone crowd surfs a kid in a wheelchair. Great times. Oh, where's all the music gone? What happened? Well, I think that's enough. I've been going for nearly an hour. So that brings us to the end of this series of videos about how to create a classic IDM sample pack. But, you know, you don't need, it doesn't need, it can be any genre of music you want, okay? I'm sure you know that anyway. So, yeah, and I hope you enjoyed this video. This is just one of the many ways in which I like to jam with Ableton Live. This is kind of what I call sort of one of my, this is like a booze live set. So this is basically like, okay, if I'm thinking of going somewhere and there's going to be booze, those times may never come. Those times may never come. I don't know. I just may be stuck at home forever. You might be, and we might just have to do it all on the internet, and that's okay. But maybe those days will come where we can all go out and start playing our sounds to each other again and not giving a shit. Just having a nice time. Okay, I'm going to go and put this set on my Patreon now, and that concludes this series. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and you know, thanks for all the feedback and the comments and stuff. Yeah, I am currently moving into a new setup, which means that there will be teething problems whilst I work out how to get my levels right for YouTube. So I apologize for that. Up until now, I was doing it all through Ableton, which whilst was like not always very nice for me, it basically meant that I could just get all the levels exactly where I needed them. But now I'm using like the Tascam Model 12, which I love. But it does mean that I need to do maybe a little bit more work in post-production to get the levels sorted. So if you know, if you're watching the video and an advert comes on and you shit yourself, I'm really, really, really sorry about that. I'm working on it. Okay. Thank you very much. See you soon. Hello everyone, this is just a polite reminder to please consider checking out my Patreon. It's got this god-awful banner which I need to update, but the content is solid. If you've enjoyed what I've made and you'd like to see me continue making such things, then consider supporting me. There's also these various different types of tiers that you could choose from. Some of them involve having private one-to-one calls with me where I can, you know, give you a bit of advice if you want it, if you need it. You know, maybe you don't. I don't know. Maybe you just want to hang out. I don't know. But yeah, like I'm also completely open to taking any suggestions to do with any types of videos that you'd maybe like me to make. In fact, I need ideas. I need them. So yeah, please click on the link and check that out. And thanks for your time.